into First Take on this Feel Good Friday. I am so hyped to have my people with me. My girl, Elle Duncan, in the house, looking gorgeous per usual, but more importantly, bringing the knowledge.
Let's go.
RC, suited and booted?
Yeah,
I haven't seen you in a minute.
I'm
How are you?
suited and booted. I will say this to all the people watching. Yes, there is as much beauty on this set as it seems from your homes right now.
We forgot our brooches, Molly.
Yeah.
No.
I'm going to get y'all home with some initials.
Please.
I got
In
y'all.
case we forgot, RC's the brand.
Yeah.
Stephen A. Smith coming to us from the West Coast. SA, how you feeling this morning? Like the blue?
Well, first of all, a couple of things right here. Number one, I wouldn't, if I'm RC, I don't associate the word beauty with himself. I don't think that is the right way to go. I don't think that is something that he should have done. That's number one, especially with you and Molly right there next to him.
That's who I was talking
You were talking about yourself. You were talking about yourself.
I wasn't.
And number two,
tell you how you feel about me.
when the daredevil is going to show up on First Take, at least let us know. At least let us know.
Okay. No, not Daredevil.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Who's the kingpin?
I know, right?
There's been a lot of laughs around these parts
Man.
lately. But in much more serious news, guys, we kick things off in the NFL. A very scary moment last night. Let's dive into it. Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa left Thursday night's 31-10 loss to the Buffalo Bills after sustaining another concussion in the third quarter, the third diagnosed concussion of his NFL career. The injury occurred when Tua scrambled up the middle for a first down and made forcible contact with his helmet to the forearm of Bills safety DeMar Hamlin. Tua immediately went into a fencing response with his arms in an unnatural position, difficult to watch. Medical trainers attended to him for several minutes as players kneeled around him. He was ultimately able to walk off the field and into the locker room under his own power, but was quickly ruled out for the rest of the game. Here's Mike McDaniel with more.
Talked to him in the locker room. Obviously, I talked to him on the field, and then talked to him in the locker room before he was headed home. You know, he was in good spirits. The furthest thing from my mind is, what is the timeline? I want to know. We just need to evaluate, and I'm just worried about my teammate and like the rest of the guys are.
You just don't want to see somebody, continue to, go through adversity like that and go through injuries. It's definitely tough, and I'm praying for him, man. That's my guy. So seeing that happen again, it was tough to watch, and I just hope that he's gonna be all right.
We just hope that everything moving forward can be as positive as possible, uplifting every single human being in this locker room, praying for safety and health for everybody on the field always, and obviously it's always tough to see your leader go down like that. So we'll all be praying and moving forward, having his family in our thoughts and prayers.
Shannon Sharpe was on social media yesterday tweeting this: really hope Tua is okay, but he's got to seriously think about shutting it down. I hate saying this. His concussions are getting worse and worse, and he's a young man with his entire life ahead of him. I couldn't agree more. Stephen A., I'll start with you on this topic. Should Tua ever play in the NFL again, obviously based on his concussion history?
Well, obviously, based on his concussion history, one would sincerely doubt that he should. I certainly need to say that. We have to remember, it's not only his third concussion since 2022. It's his fourth concussion in the last 5 years. Remember, y'all, his last year at Alabama, on a play where he was running, he suffered a broken nose along with a plethora of other injuries that included a concussion. And so concussions are, they talk about when you get them, the more you get them, the more debilitating it becomes. The worse you get, the more susceptible you are to them in the future. And so knowing that that is a reality, I think that anybody with sense would say, it's something he should consider. I certainly don't disagree with Shannon Sharpe. I listened to RC on Get Up earlier. I don't disagree with what you had to say, but I also think that there's a reality that we can't escape here. It's not going to happen. He's not going to walk away. He just signed a $212 million contract over the next 4 years, $167 million guaranteed. This is generational wealth that we're talking about here that he's trying to accomplish for himself. And, he has a family to think about now. Obviously, he's thinking about himself, and he should, and he's thinking about his family, and he should. But this is part of it. RC, you played the game. You're a Super Bowl champion. And I remember when, you had your situation and Mike Tomlin had to force you out. He wouldn't allow you to play. You were going to put your life on the line. And obviously there's a lot of us that love our families, but I don't know of anyone who wears it more on their sleeve than you as it pertains to the love that you have for your family, RC. And Mike Tomlin had to force you to sit out.
Yeah.
At that particular moment in time, you weren't thinking about that. You were, and so when you're a football player, this is what you all have taught me. When you're a football player, you're willing to put it on the line because your mentality is you're putting it on the line every time you step out on the field. How do you then turn around and say, I'm going to walk away from it right after I just signed a 4-year, $212 million deal with $167 million guaranteed? I think that's a hard thing to expect. We can all say that we think he should, but the likelihood is that he won't.
But RC, there's 3 letters, CTE.
Yeah. And you can't promise me how it's going to affect my life. You can't tell me that based on what you see going on with me or the amount of concussions that I've been through or I've been diagnosed with is going to make me this person going forward. To be the best football player you can possibly be, you have to be inherently selfish. It is a selfish game. It is a selfish act to consistently say, I'm going to go out and focus on me today and not focus on what's at home. I'm going to compartmentalize what's going on in my life and go out and be the best that I can be at this thing that I loved far before I had children, this thing that I loved far before I had a wife, this thing that is honestly given me and my family all that we have. The Tagovailoas have made football their family business. The Tagovailoas moved to Alabama. They now live in Miami. This is something that they do together. And so together they're going to have to figure out is right now in the present and what we want and what we're presented with, is that more pressing, more important, more vital to who we are than something we don't know? At least it won't affect you the way it did last time because you don't have those organs. So I convinced myself that if I put the right things around me, I could be okay after that day. What you're telling Tua Tagovailoa is we think this will affect you this way, but we don't know. But what he does know is that he loves this game. What he does know is that he has money on the line. And when you watch the way this man has progressed through his career, the confidence he plays with now, the confidence he has within himself, it's going to be incredibly hard for him to walk away. And we just don't we don't have the right, we are not entitled to tell him that he shouldn't play.
Sure.
All you can do is give him all the information he's supposed to get, let him have every conversation he's supposed to have with his family, and then let him make his decision. And yes, it's scary. We all saw it. When he was running up to Damar Hamlin, I was scared. Hell, it's the most scared I've ever been on a play because Tua Tagovailoa, who we know is susceptible to concussions, puts his helmet in the chest of Damar Hamlin, who we watched die on the field.
Yes.
That's football. And what we do is when you tell us we can't do something.
It is interesting. Damar was a part of the play as well.
It is about us proving that we can.
Really quick, Al, before you jump in, obviously I want to hear from you. Ryan, when you were in that situation and you were faced with potentially walking away, were you even open to hearing that at all?
Yeah, you're open to hearing it, but just because I hear it don't mean I'm listening.
Got it.
But did the Steelers protect you from yourself?
Yes.
Right. So I did think it was interesting that Damar was involved in that because apart from us literally watching that man die on the field, 2022 and watching what Tua went through was some of the most unsettling things that I've watched in my entire life, 30 years of watching football. Stephen A. mentioned the 4 diagnosed concussions, but I'm glad we ran that full screen because there was, of course, the not concussion that prompted an investigation against the Bills that sort of started off that 2022 run. So you're talking about a guy who time and time again has shown he is concussion prone. And the worst part is, RC, is that wasn't even a bad hit.
Yep.
And everyone's screaming, how can you be stupid, Tua? You've got to slide. This man went to jiu-jitsu and he gained weight and he learned how to fall and he did all of these things. And we thought, okay, we breathed a little easier after last year when he played every single game and he was okay. You cannot, as a football player, this man's fighting for yards. He doesn't know that he got the yards that he needed on that 4th down play. That same kind of play endears you to your locker room. Yeah. Look at our quarterback gritting it out. It wasn't that bad looking, and he still ended up in that horrific fencing posture that we saw in 2022. I would not be audacious enough, to your point, to tell Tua Tagovailoa that he needs to sit it out, but I think that he should, because I hope he understands that he has a lot more to offer this world than just football. And to the money part of it, when he signed that deal, he got $45 million up front, and they guaranteed essentially his salary for the 2024 and 2025 season, meaning if he doesn't play anymore, he still walks away with $93 million on top of the money that he already made in his first rookie deal. That is still life-changing type of money.
Absolutely. That's generational wealth.
That is generational money. And I get it, RC, because you're right. The Tagovailoa it has always been the goal. It's not going to be for Talia. It's really all on Tua. This is a kid who admitted to College Game Day a few years ago that his dad would hit him if he threw interceptions, that he would beat him with a belt. I understand how difficult this decision must be. But oh my goodness, I feel complicit in watching this and rooting for this guy to keep coming back out there and doing this to himself. It's tough to watch.
There's no price on your mind.
You're absolutely right, Molly. There is no price, but the reality is, ladies, RC, is that the NFL players, this is typical. Their attitude is they're putting their lives on the line every time they step out on the field. This is just the latest example. This is just the latest challenge. Think about the concussions that Troy Aikman suffered. Think about how unknown the impact of concussions was having on football players. Think about the level of knowledge that we've gained throughout the years because of CTE, because of lawsuits against the National Football League, for crying out loud, because of some of the things that we've been discussing ad nauseum about concussions. And it hasn't dissuaded people from playing one bit. It hasn't. And that's why I think it's so important that RC is here with us discussing this subject, because we all know from an informational perspective in terms of what we've gathered, what the likely right decision is to make. But we have to concede that we don't have a right to make it for him. He has that right because NFL players go out on that field every week and they make these decisions, not just on behalf of themselves, but on behalf of their teammates, on behalf of their franchise, on behalf of the Shield itself. This is what they want to do. This is what they signed up for. You've got parents out there that have just tried to dissuade their children from playing football. And even as kids, they didn't want to listen. Okay, so when you become an adult and you become successful and you recognize you're the creme de la creme, you're one of the elite, one of the few in the world who can do it, and on top of it all, you're getting paid an exorbitant amount of dollars to do it, not to mention the acclaim, the allure, the adrenaline rush that you get when you step out on that field, et cetera, et cetera. It's a hard thing for somebody to walk away from.
And there's many other things he can do. And I know, RC, we don't understand, we don't get, but when have we been in a situation, present day, with someone with this type of concussion history and the knowledge we have on CTE? We've seen guys taking their lives over this.
No, I mean, and so like this is where it gets hard for me, right? That because and I get that we play football, and when something happens to a football player, when a football player commits suicide, we always go back to CTE, it's the concussions, and it's all of these things. Or if a football player has dementia or Alzheimer's, I could see if that was only a football player thing. That if the suicide rates were solely made up of football players, then yes, I get it. If Alzheimer's, if dementia, if those rates, if those numbers were consistently and always just football players, I get it. But you can't convince me of that, because that's not real life. You can't convince me that even when I see Troy Aikman, who's one of the highest paid analysts in this entire world, who actually retired because of concussions, and I listen to him talk about the game, and I watch him live his life, and I look at his health, you can't tell me that, oh, okay, Troy Aikman doesn't think that those 10 years, those 3 championships were worth where he is in life right now. And I know you're telling him and you want to say, Tua Tagovailoa, Tua, you got more to offer this world. But up to this point, I ain't gave the world nothing else outside of my family.
RC, how many more times can we see him in that position? He's got a wife, he has a family.
Listen, I understand that. But in 2011, I believe it was, I had 2 and 3 weeks. You know what I did? I got a new helmet. Because it was never a question to me that I'm not going to play. And I don't play the position he played. I knew I'd be in that position again.
But in the same way that the Steelers protected you from yourself, because, again, we want you to be warriors and barbarians.
They had to protect me for a week.
Okay,
They weren't asking me to walk away from the game.
Fine, but should they protect him? Because
Yeah.
the one thing that was frustrating to me about what Mike McDaniel said yesterday is we are not going to let 2022 impact in any way how we approach this current concussion. And that is problematic to me. It should absolutely impact it.
It's going to
Wait a minute now, El, hold on,
El.
Hold on, El, respectfully, that's not entirely fair. Here's the reason why. First of all, you look at boxing, you look at UFC, they put their lives on the line as well. Their wives, their girlfriends, their family members can't tell them to walk away from them. They walk in there, they can come out there really, really hurt, severely, but they put their lives on the line. The same thing is applicable to football. You have a situation where if you're the Miami Dolphins as an organization, we hate to put it this way, but it's necessary. You're trying to win football games. You're a better team with him on the field than you are without him. If you go through all the necessary protocols that are enforced by the league itself and the medical personnel they've retained, and they've cleared you to play, then now here come the organization having an asset that can contribute largely to their success, knowing that he's been okay to play, and then you're saying, okay, well, protect him, protect him, protect him. Well, there are layers to this, and there's layers they answer to. And once those people give the okay, now you've got an obligation to your franchise, to your fan base, to the player himself, to his teammates. Okay, what are we going to do? They have to make that decision. And if the guy is standing there saying, I want to play, I'm ready to go, I feel just fine, the hell with it, this comes with the game, and it's been okayed and cleared, what's he supposed to do at that particular moment in time? What is the team supposed to do at that particular moment in time? You got to ask that question.
That's fair. He was also cleared in 2022 against those Bills, and then we saw what happened a couple of weeks later when the concussion train started. And let me just say this as well when it comes to protecting you. I'm not inferring that Tua, I'm not making assumptions that Tua he talked about openly floating retirement after 2022 and talking to his family about potentially retiring because of everything that he went through. And then he changed everything about his game, supposedly, and he focused on his jiu-jitsu, and he tried to do everything he could to mitigate the risk, which is clearly a huge risk for Tua Tagovailoa based on history. And then he still finds himself the second week of the season, after completing a full season and getting paid, on what looked like arbitrary hit, concussed, and not just concussed, but in that horrific fencing position that, at least according to the internet, signifies that he was completely unconscious. So if he floated if he floated it in 2022, then is it without the possibility or outside the realm of possibility that he would float it again after what's just happened?
But I think that's the thing. I'm not saying that he shouldn't talk about it again. I'm not saying that if he so chooses, he shouldn't retire. I'm not trying to force Tua to play football. What I'm trying to tell y'all is we are differently put together than you are.
You're built differently. Sure. Your mindset.
I'm built in a different way. I see life in a different way. But as we've gotten more information, we've seen dudes make different decisions. We've seen players give up this game earlier and with less health concerns than we ever have in our entire lives, right? Because they understand. We've seen players report, I feel a little dizzy. That's not what we did. If me and Troy felt a little dinged up, I told Troy, tell me what the play is. Tell me where I'm supposed to go, right? Because that's the era I grew up in football. These dudes are different. The fact that he floated it after 2022 is different than I can ever think of because I never floated it. Right? And I wanted to play the game a certain way. If you look at the play last night, Tua Tagovailoa didn't have one of those plays last year. He didn't have one play where he tried to get an extra yard. He didn't have one play where he lowered his head into a defender because he was thinking about, if I got to stay healthy for 17 weeks, you know what happened? He felt confident. You know what happened? He got his money. You know what happened? He's been empowered by this organization, empowered by his coach, empowered by his teammates, and he wanted to go lay it all on the line for them.
And he had the same result.
What's to say?
Yeah, the same result.
Week 1 with Damar Hamlin. I mean, of all people, you don't think that's a little strange?
That's where I was going. El, just so you know, again, talking about what Tua should do is one subject. Talking about what the Miami Dolphins should do is another.
Absolutely.
That's number one. Fair. Number two, I'm going to tell you something else that I was thinking about when the play happened last night. Damar Hamlin. But not just because of what happened. It's how it happened to him. You have to remember, he got hit in the chest. Correct me if I'm wrong, RC.
No, you're
He
right.
got hit in the chest when he literally died on the field. he got hit on the chest. And so last night, if you saw, he didn't lower his head, and it wasn't a head-on-head collision between him and Tua. Tua's head went into his chest. And I'm looking at him, and I was like, thank God he's okay. It's clear. It's another nugget of evidence
is a pattern,
to show you they're built differently. Like RC said, they're built differently. They're built differently, and so are the teams.
Stephen A., hold that thought, because we have new fresh sound from Mike McDaniel from this morning. I want to play that for you guys.
I'm not giving off any sort of vibes. I'm not trying to even look at, okay, well, how serious is this relative to his past ones? That's really for me. I know the facts are that it's important that he gets healthy day by day, and in that, the best thing I can do is not try to assess what this even means from a football standpoint.
Okay, Stephen A., you react first.
Well, again, he's talking about assessing how it looks from a football standpoint. They're going to say all the right things, and I'm certainly not trying to imply that they mean otherwise. Certainly they're concerned about the health of Tua. But it's going to be a collective effort in deciding when he is suitable enough to come back onto the field. Once that happens, you know what Tua's going to do. In all likelihood, he's going to come back on the field. It's just the way that it usually works. And so as an organization, again, if you go through all the proper protocols, and he's cleared to play by the NFL, he's cleared to play by medical personnel, he's cleared to play, not just the league and their independent medical experts, but also the team and its medical experts working in concert with one another. And then you collaborate all of that information, and you go to Tua, and Tua's like, I want to play. The likelihood is he's going to be back on the field. This is what comes with it, and we need to accept the fact that, as RC said it best, they're built differently. You got to be built differently to get out on that field and to do what they do, and it's not going to change.
I want you to jump in. I could also argue this doesn't help the game at all. It's not, well, prime video, but national TV primetime game, and parents are watching this and just seeing. And if he's on the field again next week, I don't think that's a good look. And I'd be doing my due diligence with doctors and research. But I'm just saying, way beyond team doctors, and doing my research to find out, all the potentials of what could happen if I continue to play this game.
Why did the Dolphins drag their feet on giving him more money, on extending him?
Injuries.
Prophecy fulfilled. When I saw that sound of Deion Dawkins, who doesn't even play on his team, we were all going, no, go down, go down. Come on. And I get it, RC. I get it. I've never played a snap of football in my life, but when the opposing team is praying for you to go down because they know your history and they know how concussion prone you are. And
if it was you,
if it was your son, if it was Jordan.
I think what you guys have to.
Jordan.
If this was Jordan, this is Jordan's decision. I would give him the advice and I would say, son, I want you to be good. I want you to be good for your kids. I want you to be there for your kids the way I got an opportunity to be there for you. At the age of 44, I got a 25-year-old, 23-year-old, and a 19-year-old, and I hope that one day soon or one day at some point they have children, and I feel like, at least at this moment, I'll be good for their children. I had way more concussions than that. And never at a point was there a conversation, and Yonk, never at a point was there a conversation where Yonk told me, Ryan, you got to give it up, because she knew that was a futile conversation. Do you know who was sitting right next to me when I assembled a team to try to convince Mike Tomlin that I wanted to go play in Denver, who already had a flight booked to Denver just in case I had to go to the hospital to stay? Yonk.
That's Ryan's
because
wife.
The people,
aren't
Ryan's
clear,
wife.
and Jordan is Ryan's
because
son.
the people who are part of the families of the guys who play this game, they live this game with us, and they understand how we see it. I'm not saying that Tua Tagovailoa shouldn't contemplate retirement. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it may be the smarter thing to do, because at least that's the only way he can ensure he doesn't take another hit on a football field that contributes to his concussion proneness, to his concussion, to the symptoms and the consequences that he may face in the rest of his life. I get that. What I'm saying is it's not that easy, and it's not that cut and dry.
Are concussions way more prevalent than we're privy to? So is that why it seems like much ado about nothing to you versus Elle and I from a distance?
It's not about that.
Well, he didn't say that, Molly.
It's not about as much to do about nothing. It's a huge deal. Me, as a football player, I'm sitting at home, and the same as Stephen A. And I told you this before the show, when I see these two dudes collide, it was worst case scenario for me. One guy who has a history of concussions and another dude I literally watched die on the field and cried in my room about. I get that. Right, I get the human part of the game, but the reason that we love the game, the reason that like I walk around places and I ain't scared of folks is because I know I did something with my life that other people aren't willing to do that are just walking around. The thing that made me who I was when I went in there and I stuck my face mask on somebody and I could barely see when I got up, I could shake it off, I could go to my teammates and say I'm all right and do it, and we loved each other for it. I'm not saying that that's the right culture, but that is the culture, and it is a bad look. I know parents are going to see it a different way, but that's who they are.
Also, RC, to piggyback off your point, and all of those are big-time points that need to be heard, 1,696 active NFL players on NFL rosters for a season. How many are suffering the way Tua suffers? So when you bring up, Elle and Molly, what you're bringing up, nobody's saying you're wrong. Nobody's saying you're inaccurate. Yeah. Nobody is trying to dilute or minimize your concerns. They're very, very legitimate. But you have to consider the other side, and it's not just about what RC is saying from experience. Yep. It's also, as unfortunately in life, Elle, it's a numbers game. And a lot of times they're looking at it and they're saying, how many guys are actually going through this? So you could say it's a bad look for the game, Molly. I would beg to differ. A lot of people are looking at it and saying it comes with the game.
Last night. Come on.
It comes with the game. I know. What I'm saying is it comes with, yes, it's very, very scary. And DeMar Hamlin was even scarier. Who's on the field? By the way, DeMar Hamlin was back on the field. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I'm talking about last season. So understand that people are looking at it. People are looking at it that way.
Behavior. It wasn't a pattern with him,
Molly.
Stephen A. It was an isolated incident. And I just have to say one thing, Elle, before you jump in. Stephen A., as somebody that's had a lot of health issues, and you know this, nothing matters to me beyond your health. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to jump in on the DeMar.
I'm just telling you, I don't care about money. I don't care about anything. Your quality of life. You're laying in bed.
But
nothing's
they do.
Worth that. Okay.
But they do.
Just a quick point to the DeMar Hamlin thing, though. We heard from 1 million different experts in the field that said this was an anomalous event. It was a perfect storm. It is a getting struck by lightning type of event. That is not the situation with Tua. This is a repeated pattern that we've seen time and time again, which is why they were hesitant to pay him. And I get everything that you're saying.
Well, Elle, what are you saying, Elle?
She's absolutely right.
Are you saying the NFL? Are you saying the NFL should not allow him back? That's what
absolutely
I'm trying to get
not.
Are you saying that?
That's not what I'm getting at all. What I'm saying is I understand the conflict of interest if you are the Dolphins. You've already paid this man. All of your jobs are contingent on winning. You've given this man money. He gives you the best opportunity to win. What I'm saying is that there's got to be some middle ground between we're going to force him out there to play and what Mike McDaniel is saying, which is that we're not going to use any of the past information to inform our decision now. I don't agree with that.
I don't think they're in those situations, right, where you don't have an opportunity to truly prepare, really think about what you're saying, I don't feel like we can hold him accountable for his words. We need to hold him accountable by his actions, right? That's a difficult place to be in. And he's actually not going to weigh in on what's going on with Tua Tagovailoa at all. It's all going to be about what the doctors say. It's all going to be about how he progresses through the protocol. It's all going to be about what the medicine and the tests say. And then after that, it's going to be about what Tua Tagovailoa believes and what Tua Tagovailoa feels.